I have a JuJu Lewis recruiting update.
You are Locked On Trojans, your daily podcast on the USC Trojans. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Fight on, everyone. I'm your host, Mark Culkin, and thank you for making Locked On USC part of the Locked On Network, your first listen every day. Whether you're watching the show on YouTube, wherever you're downloading your podcast, this show is always free, and I always appreciate your support. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. That's why you need LinkedIn Jobs help you find the right people for your team faster and for free. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnCollege. Terms and conditions apply. So just in case anyone's worried, JuJu is coming off his official visit, just took it to Auburn over the weekend, and JuJu is still publicly committed to Lincoln Riley and the USC Trojans, okay? He's been committed to USC for over a year. Relax. Nothing's changed. He's been on USC's campus multiple times. His last being was back on June 7th, that weekend, official visit. He'll be back in town this week. Yeah, you got Elite 11 finals. And again, reminder, he is just coming off of his official visit to Auburn this weekend. As I'm speaking, he's probably on his way home to Carrollton, Georgia from Auburn, Alabama. Another program, Auburn. You know, he's visited them a lot of times. I'm going to even go out on a limb and say he's probably visited the Plains more than he's visited USC, and he should. Carrollton, Georgia isn't that far away. So here's my question. Because I don't really think Colorado and Indiana are true players for his commitment. He still has his official visit with Coach Prime and his banquet kid over there in Boulder, Colorado. That's coming up this weekend, the weekend of the 19th through the 21st. Or starting the 21st, I apologize. And then, according to JuJu, he's shutting it down in July, right? No more visits. He's done, and he'll make it official. Not sure what he needs to shut down, considering he's still committed to USC. But that's where we're at. Everyone was concerned, taking that official visit to Auburn. Something was going to happen. He was going to flip. Well, I checked with one of my Auburn sources, and he believes when push comes to shove, Lewis will end up picking the Trojans. And he actually was trying to bait me into this. He was saying, no, he's going to be War Eagle. I was like, I don't know. And he felt that way even after this official visit. So my question is this. At what point does Auburn say, all right, JuJu, you know what? We've had a great time going on dates. We're paying for a good time. But when are you going to tell USC to FO? And that doesn't stand for fight on. According to this source, Auburn put a lot of pressure on JuJu and his entourage. His entourage being his dad. And they, again, just passing along the info as it was given to me. Auburn even made, NIL-wise, made an offer better than what USC had on the table. Not sure if he was serious, but he said 2 times better than the offer. Look, I don't know what USC's offer is. I think it's pretty good. USC's NIL opportunities for a elite starting quarterback, not bad. Caleb Williams can testify to that, right? Here's the thing. Auburn didn't think they had a real shot until a few months ago. And they probably feel this way now because Auburn's all in with JuJu. He is their number one priority, at least from the NIL approach. And again, Auburn may have or may not have been told to, stay away from Houston Longstreet, especially if they want JuJu Lewis. And when I talk about stay away, I'm saying don't make him an NIL offer that, he'll consider wanting to come to Auburn instead of leaving Texas A&M. That would have to be a really significant offer, first of all. So I think when JuJu ultimately just keeps his commitment, I think it's going to be assumed that KJ Lacey will be the guy that immediately becomes an Auburn Tiger, jumping into their 2025 class. So there's your JuJu Lewis watch news. He's still a Trojan. He's going to shut it down in July. Auburn made a really, really, really good pitch over the weekend. And we'll see what happens. Remember, the longer this goes, if he hasn't decommitted from USC by now, it's probably not going to happen. I could see him, look, the arguments being made, well, you know what? He's taking another official visit to Colorado, and then he's going to shut it down. He's going to think about it. Nothing to think about. He's not going to go play for Coach Prime. As good of a quarterback coach and offensive coordinator that Indiana has, they don't have what Lincoln Riley and what USC offers. And the reason why I think Auburn is second in line, again, proximity to home. And I know I said it before, Hugh Freeze has an open checkbook this offseason when he has his eyeball on the player he wants in his program. So just a reminder, Lewis is back in LA this week, Elite 11 finals. And again, I would be surprised if he and Coach Riley do not hook up before he heads off to Boulder, Colorado after the Elite 11. And then obviously he's heading home from Boulder, Colorado. I can't wait for Elite 11. Yeah, I'll be out there Tuesday evening, watch him throw the ball around. So there you go. That's your JuJu Lewis update. Figured, I know, is a little bit of a tease, but he is coming off an official visit. And in my opinion, the runner-up to USC. So it's kind of pressing news. It's relevant right now. That's why I'm bringing it to you. I do have a little bit of other recruiting news. It was kind of a light weekend. There was no official visits. So one other note I can bring to you. Nick Brooks, the offensive lineman. Yeah. When he was actually on the official visit weekend with Julian Lewis. What are we now? A week ago? When you're done making Locked On USC your first listen, head on over to weareusc.com. Scott Schrader, he has a little bit of an update for you on Nick Brooks, the offensive tackle from Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Nick was among the visitors, and he told WeAreSC that it was one of his strongest official visits so far. And actually, I've hinted at it. He might have been one of those three fight on emojis that Lincoln flashed out after, or actually during the official visit weekend. We know Hayden Lowe was one of them. We're still waiting for confirmation on the other two. Some are thinking Nick was one of them. My everydayers heard me say this last week. Okay, USC feels really good about that visit. But again, kind of like Malik Autry and Justin Hill, there hasn't been any articles out there on his official visit that has put USC as his top choice. Well, again, Nick spoke with Scott at weareusc.com. I'll give you one quote. You can go finish. When you're done with this episode, you can go finish up the story over there. Yes, they, USC, are indeed one of my top schools. There you go. Look, offensive line recruiting is a mystery right now when it comes to USC. They have one commit, Willie Wasker, who, by the way, is going to be on tomorrow's episode of Locked on USC. So make sure you check that out. And they just gave an offer to Elijah Bicona, the 6'8", 350-pound behemoth from Rancho Santa Margarita Catholic High School, Orange County. Look, they have offers out there to a bunch of offensive linemen, a lot of the top guys out there. But if we're looking at USC's recruiting class, it's definitely lagging behind compared to the other position groups. USC has stacked a lot of talent in that room. These last two classes, 23 and 24, But here's the thing, they're young. And here's another thing. There isn't any more help coming this season. There's no help on the way out of the transfer portal. We'll talk about that more in the next segment. Do me a favor. Don't forget to like, subscribe, notify. That way you can see the interview I did with Julian O'Connor. Did that over the weekend. So check that out. So you like what you're hearing? You're watching on YouTube, click that red subscribe button. See that thumbs up? That's called smash it. Makes a show. And that if you hit that bell notification button, you'll know every time I've got an episode coming up, including the player interviews. So again, I've got, I just mentioned, there's no more help coming from the transfer portal. I'm going to talk about that next. But first, when you're hiring for your small business, you want to have as many top-tier candidates as possible to interview. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team, and they're going to do it faster, and they're going to do it for free. LinkedIn isn't just another job board. LinkedIn's a vast network of more than 1 billion professionals, and I said that with a B, which makes it the best place to hire. And hiring is easy when you have that many quality candidates. So easy, in fact, that 86% of small businesses, they get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. And LinkedIn knows that small businesses, you're wearing a lot of hats and you probably don't have a lot of time or resources to do the hiring. Thankfully, with LinkedIn, the process is intuitive, quick, and easy. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnCollege. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnCollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions will apply. You're watching Fox Sports. You're watching ESPN on your TV all day. I know. I am too. Do me a favor. Do what I do. Turn down the volume because everybody's yelling and screaming. Make the switch to Locked On Sports Today. It's a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the yelling. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news. And it's streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. I mentioned just a minute ago, it doesn't look like USC is getting anyone from the transfer portal. I mentioned it last week. Well, I got confirmation. USC isn't getting anyone else from the transfer portal on either side of the ball. Plan is we're moving forward. And they decided to move forward when Bryce Foster, the offensive line transfer from Texas A&M, he wasn't able to make the move. According to WeAreSC.com, he'd be at USC but couldn't get admitted, and it's been an issue over the years with several transfer targets. I've talked about this. USC sometimes is her own worst enemy. I've talked about the challenges and how USC, she hurts herself, with their transfer requirements. And it's not just from school to school. It's also with the JUCOs, the junior college guys. This literally is one of those situations where a guy wants to be at USC, but it comes down to which of his academic units are transferable and which ones does USC want to accept. So at least we got one question answered, right? We know what USC's offensive line room is going to look like when they kick off against LSU. And that, by the way, happens in 76 days. Yeah. They have 76 days to prove they're capable. I'm not talking about the starting five on the offensive line. It's more about that young depth, the guys behind them. Remember last year's team mantra? The longer goes, the better we get. At a certain point, Lincoln's Coach Riley's team, you need to start proving that mantra. It goes back to last year against Arizona State. Even though USC won that game, Jamil Muhammad repeated those words. But that's when the doubt really started to kind of take over. And not just from the untrained eyes, from the trained eyes as well. And it's starting to have an effect on recruiting and the transfers who want to come to USC. I mentioned in the first segment that recruiting is going great. However, the offensive line recruiting could be doing better. I mean, I think we can all agree there, right? I think what's hurting, and I'm using that term very loosely, what's potentially causing a lag with the offensive line recruiting, I think much of it has to do with how USC ran the ball last year. It was kind of disappointing, even despite getting 5 yards a pop. Look, you also have on the other side of the ball the lack of USC's run defense. Hiring Antonlynn and Eric Henderson, changing the scheme out, that's going to help with the run defense. They need some more size. They can use some more help on that side of the ball. But heading into year 3, if Lincoln Riley starts to use his running backs more consistently, I think he'll erase some of the doubt on that side of the ball. And I'm referring to the offensive lineman. Right now, USC has 1 commit in this class, Willie Wasker. Mentioned it. He'll be on tomorrow's episode. Make sure you check that out. And they're in the running for a lot of other guys, including Nick Brooks, who I spoke about. But I think everybody senses a little hesitancy from those on the outside who maybe want to consider USC, but they're just like, you know what? Prove it. Prove it to me. So I think if USC runs the ball more consistently, especially moving into the big conference, that will help. Because you know what happens when you run the ball? Those elite prospects who play offensive line, they get excited. You know, it's offensive linemen would much prefer run blocking to pass protecting. You got to be able to do both, but there's a difference. If you want to look, let's just do a comparison. Let's compare USC to LSU. Okay, right now, one team is getting more respect than the other. Neither USC or LSU played a lick of defense in 2023. As a result, both replaced their defensive coordinators. Wholesale changes, defensive staff. But when it comes to recruiting, USC is the one who's struggling on the offensive line. And when you compare USC's offensive line to LSU's last year, LSU gave up 22 sacks. USC gave up 33. LSU took some criticism for allowing their Heisman winner, Jaden Daniels, to take so many hits. Well, USC had Caleb Williams, their Heisman winner. He was taking a lot of hits. Sometimes a result of that has to do with having a mobile quarterback. In Caleb's situation, he likes to hold on to the ball. So, I'm just kind of throwing stuff out there. I think this might have an effect with offensive line recruiting. You know, there's an optics out there. There's a perception. Well, right now, both USC and LSU have top 5 recruiting classes nationally. The Tigers have the 2nd ranked class. USC, the number 4 ranked class. LSU has 11 commits. USC has 13. Okay, right there. The Tigers, they have 3 offensive line commits. USC, 1. Ironically, believe it or not, Ohio State, who has the number 1 offensive line class, they also just have 1 O-line commit. Interesting. Coach Riley can help Josh Henson's recruiting. Again, he can do that by showing the offensive line guys out there that they are recruiting, those prospects. That, you know what, they want to play. They can. They're willing to play smash mouth, power football. Because again, despite football being hard, players like to play football the way it was meant to be. Especially those guys in the trenches. When you ask an offensive line guy, again, I'm going to repeat myself. When you ask an offensive line guy to pass protect, you're asking him, you're essentially, you're playing on your heels. You are now a defender. But when you ask guys who weigh over 300 pounds to run block, you're kind of unleashing that beast who loves to make pancakes. You're now the aggressor. You're initiating. I really do. I anticipate USC's class picking up some momentum after this next final official visit weekend bash that's coming up. But when USC shows everyone what they can do in 76 days against LSU, then I think the offensive line recruiting will get better, hopefully. You heard me mention in there just a second ago that playing football is hard. Yeah, I'm going to talk about that in the next segment. Summertime means baseball and the NBA Finals and more. And you can bet it all on FanDuel. Right now, new customers, you're going to get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 you can use to bet on everything from the Finals MVP to who's going to hit one out of the ballpark. Visit FanDuel.com/locked-on and add a big win to your summer bucket list. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. How many of you saw the Tom Brady football is hard speech? Please tell me you saw it. If you hadn't, when you're done watching this and you're done reading WeAreSC.com, get on YouTube and go find it. Just type in Tom Brady football is hard. Amazing. He was just recently inducted into the New England Patriots Hall of Fame, Ring of Honor. They're retiring his number 12 jersey. Well deserved. Anyway, he gave a speech that literally, it nailed it. One of the best speeches explaining why football is so important and literally how it shapes young men's lives. If you don't know by now, you should know. I'll tell you right now. My favorite motivational speech of all time, and there's a lot of them out there. Jim Valvano, rest in peace, North Carolina State's old basketball coach. His "Don't Give Up" speech. That's my mantra. That's the one I try and live by. I say try. You know, the whole think, laugh, cry. If you've done all three of those and you've had a full day, I really do try and do that every day. That's who I am. That's part of what makes this show. But Tom Brady's football is hard speech, life is hard, that's right up there, number 2. And he's 100% correct. Life is hard. And here's my little editorial. It has no room for quitters. Here's what the GOAT said. I would encourage everyone to play football for the simple reason that it is hard. It is hard when you're young to wake up in the off season at 6 a.m. to go train and work out, knowing all your friends are sleeping in and eating pancakes. It's hard when you're on your way to practice way down with all your gear and it's 90 degrees outside, when all the other kids are at the pool or at the beach, and your body's already completely exhausted from workouts and 2-a-days. It's hard to throw, catch, and block and tackle and hit kids when they're way bigger and way more developed than you, only to go home that night bruised and battered and strained, but knowing you have to show up again the next day just for the chance to try again. But understand this, life is hard. My advice is to prepare yourself, because football lessons teach us that success and achievements come from overcoming adversity, and that team accomplishments far exceeds anyone's individual goals. End quote. I still get chills. Recruits now, today, they get upset if they don't get an offer. My advice is the same that Tom Brady would give. Go work hard. Go earn it. Go show up to the camps. Don't expect anything. Don't anticipate. Go get it. Go work for it. Instead of transferring from one school to the next, work harder. Because as the GOAT put it, and let's not be mistaken, Tom Brady, greatest of all time, playing quarterback in the NFL. To be successful at anything, the truth is you don't have to be special. You have to be what most people aren't. Consistent, determined, and willing to work for it. No shortcuts. If you look at all my teammates here tonight, it would be impossible to find better examples of men who embody that work ethic, integrity, purpose, determination, and discipline that it takes to be a champion in life. Okay, that was my favorite part. You don't have to be special. You just have to be consistent. I think Tom Brady said, don't give up. Don't ever give up. He just said it differently. And you know what? It still hits the same. All right. That's it for this episode of Locked on USC. I'll be back again with another episode tomorrow. Again, reminder, tune in. I'll be interviewing USC commit, offensive lineman Willie Wasker. Hopefully you've already checked out the episode I did with current USC center, Killian O'Connor, Kill Switch. Great interview. Go check it out. Great young man. You don't want to miss it. All right. I'll be back tomorrow. So until then, everyone, you know what to do.